Water pumps. Let's talk about them. Now, the purpose of a water pump in your car is to circulate coolant using centrifugal force. Now, there's a couple of different ways to drive that water pump. The most common one is off the serpentine belt, but you can also have gear-driven ones and timing chain-driven ones, which are internal to the engine. You could also have them driven off of timing belts like on older school cars. But on newer cars, and especially hybrids, they're electrically driven. Now, if you want to learn more about the entire cooling system, check the link above. But real quick, the water pump is usually driven off the car's engine. It's going to send hot coolant over to the radiator, where the fan's going to breeze it off and cool it down. It's then going to come over to the thermostat that's going to control it, and then that'll cool off the engine. We're going to steal some of that heat over to the heater core, which is going to make your wife nice and warm on a freezing cold February day like today. Now let's take a look at the evolution of the water pump. Here's a nice old school design from Hyundai. We've got a nice steel impeller with an aluminum housing and a steel flange where the pulley is going to attach to. At the bottom inside of here, there's some crusties, and that's where the weep hole is. Then they moved to a much lighter design, of course, to optimize economy. We now have a plastic pulley over here, as well as a plastic impeller on the inside. You can see these teeth are already chipped off, which is not a real good design. Now, our water pump's got two seals. We got one on the bearing side and then one on the cooling side. Now, some coolant is allowed to escape, and that'll come through the weep hole. Otherwise, it's going to go inside the bearing and mess it up. That's why we have that little relief there. Now, if a lot of coolant starts pouring off here, then it's time to replace the water pump. Now, on more modern designs like this Audi water pump, we've got a vacuum line attached to it with a vacuum switching valve. Now, in fail-safe mode, this impeller is going to spin just like a normal water pump, but let's say you don't need the cooling power of the water pump. The engine's still warming up. Apply a little bit of vacuum, and this impeller is now going to be sucked in out of the water jacket area, so it no longer creates drag on the engine, and you can operate a little bit more efficiently. Definitely a lot more complicated than using a digital thermostat, but hey, it's off of an Audi. Now, this particular Mercedes uses a gear-driven water pump, but I just wanted to illustrate in this thermostat housing the use of plastics. The water pump jacket here is now made of plastic. Now, that's the mechanical water pump. For hybrid vehicles, which are becoming more and more common, we have electric water pump. This one's out of an RX 400 Lexus hybrid. You'll see it's also got a plastic impeller. The advantage of electric water pumps is that they allow you to turn on and turn off the coolant flow when you need it. That way you don't really need a thermostat, and you don't have to worry about any drag on the engine. This uses a low voltage connector. Over here we've got a turbocharged looking water pump. This one's off of a Ford Fusion hybrid, and it uses a high voltage connector. So it's a speed car video without my mechanical press or an angle grinder. Let's see if I can chop this open so we can see what's inside. Stinks, bro. It's plastic. Jeez! Pry this cover up. Take it out. Comes out pretty easily. And we got a circuit board. Okay. Already this has gotten a lot more complicated than the old Hyundai one. So it looks like this case here is actually a heat sink for these two modules or whatever sits on top of this board. This one's made by ASIN. I know these water pumps are also quite expensive, but they're also pretty reliable. So let's see if we can chop off this board. Ow. Alright, so this became a lot more complicated than I thought. Basically, we've got 4 prongs going in here. I'm assuming it's going to be power and CAN bus. And then that's going to go to these transistors over here, which are going to turn it into 3-phase AC. You can distinguish the 3 phases over here on the back of the motor. Pull off this little O-ring. The rotor comes off. Here's a closer look at the impeller. It's plastic. These are super expensive to replace, and I know a lot of the newer Camrys and very simple cars are coming with electric water pumps now. The rest of this is all molded in there. Let's see if I can take apart the Ford Fusion one. So I'm just picking away at the lamination over here on the electrical side. It's like opening a tuna can. Got some electronics in there. Got the screws out from the back, but I realized all these solder joints are holding it in. If I try to work on this side, looks like I got a little circlip or something. So I'm going to see if I can chop it up in pieces and... should not be grinding aluminum in here. Let me go outside. Took it outside, made some incisions, gave it some pounding, and I was able to get this off. That's the seal. The circlip is on the outside here. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Looks like this was plastic and sat like that. Now the shape of this is called a volute, and this is what really determines how much flow you can get in here for how much RPMs this thing's going to be spinning at. And you'll see it sits inside this nice smooth housing. And as coolant comes in the center, it gets flinged around through centrifugal force and goes to the outside here as it exits here. Finally, let's take a look at this auxiliary water pump. This is typically used to cool hybrid vehicle batteries and their inverters, and they usually have their own little radiator off to the side. Now these use some really tiny hex bolts. I'm just going to use my hex removal tool here. So you can see the turbine that spins. This one's from a Volkswagen. 3-pin input over here. We've got the housing. This is all made of plastic. It's not very high heat because it's only cooling the inverter and battery system. You can also use auxiliary coolers on the turbocharged intercoolers. So taking a look at some of the failures that could happen with water pumps. Using this as my example, first off is of course the seal that goes around here. There's a gasket. Some of them are steel, some of them are RTV, and some of them are rubber like this one. You've also got the seal that's inside of the bearing over here. If you get a lot of leaking through the weed pole, you got to replace the water pump. The other thing is the bearing. Inside of here, there's a bearing that's going to make a whirring sound when this thing starts to wear out, or it could get so bad that it starts to wobble back and forth and walk off the belt. And then your wife's going to complain that there's no heat in the vehicle, much less the alternator draining the battery and leaving you on the side of the road before you reach the mall. Now when the bearing starts to go, you've got plastic fins inside of a very tight housing over here. That extra plate could cause the fins to break off like this one over here, especially this one being cheap plastic. Now having broken fins is kind of hard to diagnose because you usually assume that the water pump is working, and sometimes you go for things like the thermostat or the head gasket. I had one where I thought it was the head gasket, but it was actually stop leak clogging the head. If you want to check that Subaru teardown, check the link above. Speaking of stop leak, that's one of the worst things you could do to your cooling system. That stuff goes into the cooling system, it dries up. You got tiny little holes like this little weep hole over here. It clogs up. It's not going to go back into the system. It's going to go and bother that bearing and start to wear it out. Don't use stop leak in your cooling system. The other thing is think about all the fins inside of your radiator. Next up, there's also corrosion. Now, if you don't change your coolant in time, it could also become acidic. And then when that happens, it starts to rust out the inside of your cooling system, including your water pump. Cavitation could also be another issue. You do have to bleed cooling systems for a reason. So for example, if you got a head gasket leak and exhaust gases are going inside creating bubbles, well, bubbles are going to collapse themselves and they can create shock waves, which could also kill your cooling system components. You've got those very thin plastic fins in there, they could potentially break off. Now before you start screaming at me, oh, internal combustion engines suck and EVs don't need water pumps. Water pumps are a lot bigger on EVs because they gotta cool the inverter, they gotta cool the battery, plus they probably even provide some heat inside of the cabin. They're gonna probably have a big old electric one bigger than this. At least on hybrid pumps like this, you can get away with air cooling the battery because they're a lot smaller. Now at the end of the day, we want to know what kind of replacement costs we're looking at when our water pump eventually does fail. The first thing obviously is the price of the part itself. Obviously a mechanical one might cost you a bit less than an electrical one that has a big inverter on the back of it, but they do vary. You'll see that Hyundai one was very cheap, whereas this complicated Audi one with the vacuum inside is definitely going to cost a little bit more. Now the other thing is labor costs, and that has to do with the way it's driven. So for example, this serpentine belt driven water pump is very simple. It's on a 4-cylinder engine. You got a lot of space to work in there. Sits on the outside of the engine, so you can easily do it by yourself. A V6 or a V8 is going to be a little bit more compact inside of there. It's at least accessible, but a little bit more harder to reach. Now, chain or gear driven water pumps that sit inside of the timing chain area are an absolute pain to change. Now, if there's no external access hole like in a Nissan VQ engine, then you're going to be screwed and you got to take off the whole timing chain, just like a 3.5 EcoBoost, and it becomes a huge job to do a water pump. Moreover, if a water pump starts to leak because it's internal, it's going to start mixing coolant inside of the oil, then you think you got a head gasket leak. Now, electric water pumps are not tied to the engine's drive, so they can actually sit anywhere in the cooling system. Typically, there's a little radiator on the side to cool the inverter off, and these guys could sit off to the side behind the bumper. Now, timing belt driven water pumps are also a pain. It's typically recommended when you're changing the timing belt to also change the water pump as a precaution, although some OEM ones do last a long time. See, if your water pump starts to go on a timing belt driven engine, you're back in there retiming the engine. At least some chain driven water pumps allow you to slip a new water pump in there without retiming everything. Don't have that choice with a timing belt. And that's a look at water pumps and how they work in your car. I had an entire box of water pumps sitting here waiting to make this video for a very long time. Now I want you to tell me in the comment section down below, what do you think of all these water pump designs and what your experience was changing a water pump on your car? Was it really hectic and hard to get to, or did your water pump magically last 300,000 kilometers? My first time doing a water pump was on a timing belt engine like this 3.3 engine, and it was also my first time using a torque wrench. I also learned that day that there's a difference between inch pounds and foot pounds, and $500 in a tow truck later I had to get all the water pump bolts extracted for over torquing them to 70 foot pounds instead of inch pounds. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this one.